Alright guys, so I've been wanting to start a little business on the side that I can make a little extra money. So what I decided to do was I got some of these AC2 pressure treated pickets and a couple AC2 pressure treated 2x4s, and I'm going to make some planter boxes and sell them on Facebook and just see what happens. Now my original intent was to make 6 foot by 3 foot or thereabouts raised garden bed boxes. But when I went to the hardware store, they were totally out of 6 foot pickets. So you gotta pivot sometimes, and that's what I'm doing here. So I am going with 4 foot pickets and just rolling with the punches, and we'll see what happens. Alright, so I got the pickets and the 2x4s cut, and I'm ready to start putting them together. Now just make sure you pick the most presentable side for the outside. Alright, just gotta make another one of these and then put the other sides on. Well, there it is. So I'm going to use a sander real quick to take off some of the uneven edges. The pickets aren't always perfectly even because they're pickets, they're not for woodworking, so they will require some touch up. Alright, so there we have it. Now let's just get some pictures of it and get it posted. So I'm gonna type up a quick ad on Facebook. I'm probably gonna toss it on one of my local Facebook sales groups as well too. I went back and took an additional picture just to kind of show the scale of the raised planter bed, because a lot of people can't tell a scale from a picture, and if you don't put anything in there that lets them approximate the size, they'll be a lot more iffy on it. So let me get this ad typed up. I got the pictures in. The title's New Raised Garden Bed Box, approximately 4 feet square. Price, I'm putting mine for $60. I'm not really sure how much to ask, so I'm just going with it. Here it is. And it's about 5:47 on a Friday, and I'm just gonna publish that. Then I'm gonna put it in a couple local Facebook groups, and we'll see how it goes. Alright, so I just got done with some pressure washing, and it's 6:27, so not even 45 minutes later. It was actually sent at 6:14. I got a response saying that they were interested in the raised garden bed, so let's see if we can sell it here. So this is going better than I had even hoped. She replied, I put the $60 price, and she said she wants 2, but she's also gonna need a few more after talking with her dad. So it looks like I may be selling 5 already less than 45 minutes later, so I'll keep you updated on how this is going. Alright, just to give you a little update, I have another person who contacted me, and they wanted a custom design where it's raised off the ground. They're actually coming by to meet me in a few minutes here to kind of go over the plan, and I'll let you know how that goes. One of the frustrating things about, you know, selling on Facebook or selling this kind of thing like this is you don't just build it and sell it as if you were a store. People are gonna wanna know additional details, and you just kind of gotta do the rigmarole of back and forth messaging. And for me, that's the worst part. I like building things, but that part gets a little old, but it's part of the deal. If you wanna do it, you gotta do it. Well, they just came. I didn't record it because I didn't want it to be weird, but I got a deposit on a custom build, so I'll let you know how that goes. Boom. So here it is, laying on the ground. Got the 4x4 set up there, and then a frame for the base to set on. Now we just gotta flip it over and see how she looks real quick. All right, so I finished this custom build here for the person who ordered the custom one, and I'm gonna be delivering that tonight. And I just got another $400 order. This person wants me to build them some L-shaped boxes of the same design as my original design, but just make it 8-foot L instead. So I gave them a quote for that, and they ordered basically $400 worth, and I'm gonna get that done and have it to them in a few days here. I just delivered it. Got 120 bucks from that. If I build any of those again, I'm gonna be listing them for at least 160, but that's part of the process. You learn how long it takes to make something, and you adjust accordingly. But basically, I got a little bit of profit out of it, and they paid for me to get experience making that kind of planter, and I think I'm going to be listing that and offering it as an option for people in the future. So let's see what else we can sell this week. So here's the custom ones finished for one order. They're 4x6. Got little braces in the middle. Put a little angle on them, and I think that makes them look a little nicer. Okay guys, so the reason that I initially did those different scenes of me cutting the pickets with different tools is I wanted to show that you don't have to have any one specific tool in order to just start. You could use a circular saw, a hand saw, what have you. They'll do the job. Now that doesn't mean that there's not an easier tool for the job, and one of the things that you can look into once you start making money from woodworking is tools that will make things go faster and easier for you. That way it'll up your profit margin. So already I've sold enough in less than a week to buy myself a tool that's going to do that for me. So let's check this out. This miter saw is going to vastly increase my speed and ability to do this. And since I made enough to buy this already, and literally, what is it? It is Tuesday. So I posted the listing on Friday, and by Tuesday, I've already got enough buyers and enough things sold to pay for this miter saw. So in order to keep that going, get my profit ratio as far as time goes a little higher, I'm gonna use this. All right guys, so in the first 5 days I sold over $700 worth of raised garden beds. So that was pretty exciting for me. I just want to share some things that I learned along the way, and hopefully you'll get something out of it. First, raised garden beds are seasonal and you only have a window to get them out. So you may feel some pressure to produce the garden beds as fast as you can, and that can cause some stress. Obviously, gardening, depending on where you live, there's a window where people are going to be interested in buying a garden bed and where they need to get their items planted. So you can't take forever to get the stuff done once they order the item. So I was feeling pressure to try to have it done in 2 days at the latest, and that, you know, that can add up. So you just need to consider that and maybe pre-produce as much as you can. Second, you need to charge for everything: gas, tax, fasteners like screws, nails, glue, etc. All those little costs add up, and if you forget to charge the additional costs for what sales tax you paid or the fasteners you got, you're gonna think you're making $20 or $30 profit or whatever on each item, but when you actually do the real numbers, you're making a lot less than you think you are. Also, timeliness is important when responding to requests or inquiries about your product. If you take too long, they're either gonna move on to somebody else or to a different product. So you gotta be able to respond, and you can't just wait until the end of the day because you feel like it. A lot more of my sales that were successful were ones that I responded to very quickly. The ones that I didn't, generally didn't go through. Another thing I learned is where you live can make a big difference on your business, whether it be from cost. So cost for you, if you constantly have to run into town for supplies and you live like I do 20 minutes outside of town, and you got a big old V10 truck like me, then I'm burning 8 miles a gallon in that truck, and the gas costs and the time costs can add up quickly. And you just got to consider that. You may want to buy as much as you can ahead of time to reduce the number of costs. If you live in town, great, and you live close to where you can buy your items from, that's good, more power to you. But even if you live outside of where your customers live, then that may be an issue too. Also, where you live as far as a customer base is going to matter. My county only has 9,000 people in it. So my customer base is going to be a lot smaller than somebody that lives in a medium to larger size city. If I want to advertise in a larger area, then I'm going to have to deliver further, and that's going to affect my bottom line as well. And I may not be able to compete with somebody that lives in a larger area, because for them, running a product to somebody locally, they're going to have a lot more local people to run products to and not have to go as far. So that's something to consider. Another thing I learned as far as the delivery goes, that offering delivery to customers can make a real difference, because a lot of people don't have a truck. So making it convenient for them, especially if you have a larger item like a raised garden bed, making it convenient for them can be the difference between a sale and no sale. So you want to consider offering deliveries, and if you have a truck, even better. Unfortunately, it is annoying to have to deliver all your items to customers, but that's part of the business. And at the end of the day, if you're making enough of a profit to buy more tools or whatever, then, you know, it may be worth it to you. Another thing you need to consider is availability of materials. Like I said, I have to drive at least 20 minutes into town to go to the nearest hardware store where I can get the parts I need. And partway through making these raised garden beds, they ran out of some of the pickets I needed, and I had to go twice as far, so 40 minutes one direction just to get the pickets I needed. And when you're in a big truck, again, Everything adds gas, adds time, adds cost. And these things matter. So you may want to have your supplies on hand so that you don't have to do that as much, and also you don't have to worry about them running out. Another thing that I learned is just because one idea worked doesn't mean another one will. So I tried, after the raised garden beds, a couple more products and they weren't as successful. I mean, a lot of people like them and comment on the listings and all these type of things, but they haven't been nearly as successful as the raised garden beds. So really, I think your first year is going to be learning what sells when. And I think in some ways this type of business is a lot like gardening. You got to be willing to experiment and test things this year in order to have a good year next year and from then on. So figure out what works. Don't be afraid to spend your first year figuring it out, because next year I can guarantee you I'm going to be ready to go for raised garden bed seasons. I'm going to have stuff made ahead of time so I can just sell left and right. I'm going to have product on hand and I'm going to be ready to go, and it's going to be a lot more successful year for me. And when I figure out what other items sell when, I'm going to have those ready too. All right, my camera died on me, so let's continue on here. Another thing I learned was that you can't compete with the big box stores on price for items that can be mass produced, so don't even bother trying. One of the things that I tried making to sell was trellises, and not the more expensive kind, but the kind that you can basically get in the big box stores. And I had one listed on Facebook, and then I'm in Menards and I see this lady looking at a trellis, and I go check it out, and it was a price that there's no way that I could match that price. So from what I've seen and what I've learned, basically you need to either make things that are inconvenient for big box stores to sell or have mass produced, which is the raised garden beds, because they're large items that take up a lot of room and aren't that expensive. That's just not something that's going to be good for them profit wise, so that's a whole. Or things that are more intricate and difficult to mass produce. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode and found it useful. If you did, please go down below, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment if you think I did something wrong or could have done something better. Also, if you have any ideas on some things that might sell and what time of year they'll sell, just leave a comment and let me know. I'm trying to work on figuring that out myself. So far I've been somewhat successful, but I always could use some input. Also, feel free to subscribe, and I hope you have a nice day.